Disgusting. Fucking disgusting pieces of dirt.
The war just went nuclear, and somebody is about to lose everything. At first, people brushed it off as another celebrity spiral, just another loud rant fading into the timeline. But this is not random noise. What just surfaced flips the whole board. Nicki Minaj publicly freezes her album rollout and starts tagging names directly, calling major players into the spotlight. She says Jay-Z by name, she calls the Grammys a ritual. And just like that, an old feud snaps back to life. Wendy Williams once lit that match on live TV when she mocked Minaj's husband as a convicted offender. Now screenshots are everywhere. Old clips are resurfacing like receipts nobody expected to see again. Insiders are whispering about contracts, lawsuits, and reputations hanging in the balance. There is talk of 100 to 200 million tied to Tidal, a $503,000 judgment connected to Minaj. Wendy under a court-ordered guardianship, describing her residence as a luxury prison. This is no longer surface-level gossip. The stakes look serious. Minaj points at powerful executives and accuses them of corruption. Critics push back and highlight controversy tied to her own household history. Meanwhile, the silence from the top figures is striking. No statements, no denials, just quiet. And sometimes that kind of quiet carries weight. If this is retaliation, it may not have even reached its final target. That is when the situation stops feeling chaotic and starts looking calculated. Strategic. Intentional. Wendy Williams goes on air just days after Nicki quietly marries Kenneth Petty and does what she has built her brand on doing. She pulls the records and reads them plainly. No fairy tale filter. She names the prison time. She references the past conviction. She brings up history that has remained part of the public record. 2 days after the wedding, she says he served 7 years and is a registered offender. Those are documented facts and she delivers them directly. Then she lets the sarcasm linger. It lands exactly where it was aimed. The marriage stops looking like a private romance and starts looking like a public liability. People close to the situation say that was the moment the tone shifted from casual gossip to something more humiliating. Minaj built her brand on control and dominance, on shaping her own narrative. She does not accept the version of events handed to her. She writes her own script. But now, the narrative slips out of her hands. It is being shaped by someone who made a career exposing vulnerabilities. Officially, it is talk show commentary, a host doing her job.
They looking good, breaking records, you going viral for having a weird-shaped ass, and you ain't dropped no music that's doing well in a long time, and now you're no longer the reigning queen of anything. That's now debatable.
But nah,
so she acting up. She don't know how to handle it. If you a queen sitting on the top of the world, bro, for 15 years with Lil Wayne and Drake, unopposed. That's like you running your hood for a decade, 15 years, and then a group of little young get the cracking, and you like,
yeah, but you
pay no homage.
But that explanation becomes harder to defend once the response hits. Minaj does not respond with restraint. She unleashes on Queen Radio. She does not just defend her husband. She attacks Wendy's image and private life. She calls her demonic. She brings up her failed marriage. She reframes the criticism as jealousy, bitterness, and moral decay. This is not a light comeback. It is a direct challenge to credibility delivered in front of millions. Industry observers notice how quickly it escalates. There is no pause, no attempt to lower the temperature. The message feels clear. Question my life, and I will question yours. That kind of retaliation shifts the power dynamic instantly. The focus moves away from a wedding and toward control, respect, and who gets to define the narrative. Once that line is crossed, things rarely return to neutral. Instead of cooling off, the situation expands. Early one Wednesday morning, Minaj widens the battlefield. She posts that she will not release her upcoming album and tags Jay-Z directly, writing that she is done and hopes he is happy. That is not a vague message. It is a public call-out of a mogul whose company she is not even signed to. The album had been promised multiple times, with dates repeated in late September and early October. Then suddenly, it is pulled. Industry insiders say artists do not scrap major rollouts without pressure or leverage behind the scenes. Moves like that usually signal negotiations or deeper conflicts happening off camera. But she alleges that between 100 and 200 million is tied to Tidal and unpaid stakes. She claims Roc Nation attempted to sign her and failed. Now the dispute moves beyond personal tension. It becomes financial, and specific numbers change the tone. When you attach a figure like 100 to 200 million to a public accusation, it moves the conversation into boardroom territory. The 2021 title sale to Jack Dorsey's company for $297 million remains part of the public record. Minaj's posts connect that deal to her own claims of being owed a significant share. And once numbers of that scale enter the conversation, it forces attention whether anyone is ready for it or not. She pushes even further, calling out Roc Nation's CEO, Desiree Perez by name, and declaring her time is up. That alone sends shockwaves through the industry. Then another headline drops. A security guard in Germany files legal action seeking to force the sale of Minaj's California home to recover $503,000 tied to an alleged assault case. The filing surfaces in mid-October and starts circulating right alongside her accusations. Now the legal paperwork becomes part of the storyline, whether she wants it there or not. People begin connecting dots that were never meant to sit on the same page. Is this a billionaire power struggle dressed up as activism, or is financial pressure spilling into public war? The timing makes everything look loaded, but she does not stop at money. On Grammy night, she posts that the award ceremony is a ritual and warns it will backfire. She brings faith into it. Judgment, condemnation. Then she escalates again, accusing Jay-Z in language few artists would dare use, labeling him a predator, and attaching old photos of him with Aaliyah and Beyoncé to support her claims. The images are from 1996, 1997, and 2000, pulled back into circulation with ages written across them like pieces on an evidence board. The Grammys stay silent. Jay-Z stays silent.
Looks at Wendy and says, you know, you had a great career. Your career is over. It is never coming back. You're done. Why would a judge...
That silence grows louder by the hour and becomes its own force in the narrative. At the same time, critics resurface records connected to Minaj's own family. Her brother was sentenced in 2020 to 25 years for assaulting an 11-year-old. Her husband has a past conviction that placed him on registries. The backlash hits fast and hard. It lands exactly where her new moral stance is most exposed. As she accuses institutions of protecting dangerous men, online voices point toward the men closest to her. The contrast does not need long explanations. It is understood in every repost and comment thread. Insiders describe this as the moment public sympathy begins to split. Before this, she could be framed as someone speaking out. After this, critics frame her as inconsistent. And then the optics tighten even more. She announces she will not release her album until her contract is renegotiated and until she exposes what she calls sabotage, uncovered by an ARICO investigation involving Billboard. The word sabotage appears again and again. She mentions surveillance, listening devices, car tags, hacked accounts. The tone shifts from frustration to feeling surrounded. It becomes harder for outsiders to tell where justified anger ends and isolation begins. Meanwhile, Wendy Williams' story lingers in the background. In 2022, she is placed under court-appointed guardianship. In 2024, her guardian publicly reveals diagnoses of frontotemporal dementia and progressive aphasia. At one point, she appears at a fifth-floor window of her assisted living facility and drops a handwritten note that reads, "Help Wendy." The image spreads rapidly. She describes the coterie as a luxury prison. On radio appearances, she says she cannot receive calls on her landline. These are documented events, not rumors. When placed beside the memory of her mocking Minaj's marriage years earlier, the parallel feels heavy. The woman who once warned about reputational damage is now fighting for control of her own life story. That is why the old clip of Wendy reading Petty's record keeps resurfacing. Some see it as prophetic, others see it as cruel. Did she expose a vulnerability that would shadow Minaj for years? Or did that moment spark a chain reaction that never cooled down? After that clash, Minaj's public persona seems to harden. She frames criticism as spiritual warfare. She aligns herself politically in ways that distance former allies. She attends a White House event and calls herself the president's #1 fan. When Trevor Noah jokes about her absence from the Grammys, she responds with a wave of posts aimed at him and others. The list grows. Lizzo, Chrissy Teigen, Billy Porter. The circle of conflict expands so quickly it starts to resemble a map of the industry itself. That pattern does not read as random. It feels like someone bracing for impact from every direction. And that is when the real question starts echoing. If this is all strategy, why put real contracts on the line? If this is calculated, why invite legal exposure? If it is emotional, why keep aiming at the same power centers? Rock Nation, the Grammys, Billboard, veteran executives who have survived decades without blinking. Through all of it, Jay-Z's camp stays silent. Silence can be strategy. It can also signal confidence. Either way, the quiet leaves a vacuum, and Minaj fills it with more accusations.
Apparently, Nicki Minaj has dragged Jay-Z to filth. She blasts him for being evil and spiteful.
Every post raises the stakes. Every allegation makes retreat harder. Meanwhile, Wendy's guardianship reportedly costs around $25,800 a month for memory care. She says she does not belong there. Her estate reportedly covers hourly legal oversight ranging between $250 and $450. The money drains in the background while both women fight very public battles over narrative control. That is the tension at the center of this story. One woman claims the industry is sabotaging her financially. The other says the system is confining her under the label of protection. Both talk about hidden forces and closed doors. Yet when Minaj intensifies her accusations, critics resurface her family history. When Wendy demands freedom, her medical diagnosis becomes the headline. The official explanations are clean: a volatile artist venting, a vulnerable host receiving care. But the timing, the escalation, the financial strain, and the reputational hits do not line up neatly. The silence from the top remains unbroken. The longer it holds, the less this feels like chaos and the more it resembles a slow, controlled collapse. Zoom out, and the pattern grows. Nicki Minaj does not just clash with critics. She challenges institutions. She frames herself as a lone voice standing against a machine she describes as corrupt and spiritually broken. That posture builds over time, especially as doors seem to close. She talks about paid moles inside her circle. She suggests her documentary was stalled because it would expose abuse. She claims projects are delayed to drain her financially until she is forced to bend. Industry voices counter that when artists begin using words like surveillance, conspiracy, and sabotage, it signals either intense pressure or deep mistrust. From the outside, pressure and paranoia can look identical. In an industry built on non-disclosure agreements and quiet blacklists, lack of visible proof does not equal lack of consequence. That gray zone leaves room for interpretation. Wendy Williams built her brand differently. For decades, she made a career out of revealing uncomfortable truths. She said what others would not. That reputation made her both feared and valuable. When she clashed with hip-hop royalty in the past, she survived. She was immortalized in lyrics, mocked in diss tracks, and still thrived. As long as she generated ratings, the machine tolerated her. Now, she is no longer holding the microphone. She is the subject of court filings and medical evaluations. Her mental capacity is debated publicly. She insists she is not cognitively impaired. Others insist she is. That disagreement determines who controls her estate, her visitors, her phone access, and her daily life. For someone who built a career on controlling the narrative, losing that control cuts deep. The symmetry between these two women feels striking. Both built brands on confrontation. Both challenged powerful men publicly. Both saw their private lives pulled apart once their accusations intensified. Once they stopped playing along, they were increasingly defined by perceived instability. Insiders point to timing. When Minaj escalates her feud with Rock Nation and attaches massive financial claims, counter-narratives about her family resurface. When Wendy calls her residence a prison and pushes for autonomy, medical details and vulnerable footage circulate widely. This does not prove coordination, but it highlights how reputation can be used as leverage in a system where image equals currency. Money runs through everything.
Like I said, I've always spoken to her, and she's always wanted me to spend her money.
Minaj frames her conflict around unpaid stakes and stalled releases. Wendy's situation revolves around who signs the checks and who decides how the funds are spent. Her estate reportedly covers monthly housing costs that rival luxury penthouses, plus ongoing legal fees. What began as a temporary guardianship becomes indefinite after she revokes consent. The word indefinite carries weight. It signals that exit is no longer simple. For Minaj, the unreleased album becomes leverage. For Wendy, autonomy becomes leverage. In both cases, control over output and access sits at the center. Who decides when music drops? Who decides when a former host can leave her building? Who controls which story reaches the public first? People close to Minaj say she believes she is being punished for refusing to align with certain interests. She claims she is in one of the strongest creative periods of her life, even while threatening to pull the project completely. To some, that reads like negotiation. To others, it looks unstable. Meanwhile, former colleagues describe Wendy as sharp in private conversations, more alert than headlines suggest. Supporters gather outside her residence in small demonstrations, calling for freedom and questioning the roles of banks and guardians. Legal scholar Nina Cohn has publicly stated that most individuals under guardianship do not easily regain independence. That statement hangs heavy. Once a system labels someone incapable, reversing that label requires approval from the same structure being challenged. Then there is the political shift. Minaj appears at a White House event, praises a president she once criticized, and urges Christians and members of the LGBTQ community not to vote for Democrats. The language divides her audience sharply. Her rebellion begins to look less like industry reform and more like realignment of power. Wendy's history intersects with politics in another way. She exposed secrets and hinted at misconduct long before social media amplified such claims. Her list of adversaries is long and documented. When she disappears from daily broadcasting and re-emerges under supervision, speculation spreads fast. The truth likely sits somewhere between protection and restriction, but gray areas invite theories. What keeps resurfacing is usefulness. As long as Wendy delivered ratings, she was valuable. As long as Minaj delivers streams and attention, she remains valuable. When either appears to threaten the stability of structures that profit from them, volatility shifts from asset to liability. Industry insiders rarely frame conflicts in moral terms. They talk about risk. An artist publicly accusing billion-dollar partners of fraud represents risk. A talk show host accusing powerful figures of private misconduct represents risk. One situation is managed through contracts and silence, the other through court oversight and medical framing. That is the theory circulating quietly, even if no executive confirms it. Still, not every thread points outward. Some choices belong to the individuals involved. When Minaj publicly ties every setback to sabotage, her room to pivot shrinks. When Wendy's past behavior is documented in detail, critics use it to question her clarity. Public actions do not disappear. Posts remain. Footage remains. It is possible for someone to face real pressure and still harm their own credibility. It is possible to speak uncomfortable truths while undermining your position. That duality makes this story volatile. There are no clean heroes here. The silence at the top continues. Jay-Z offers no rebuttal. Rock Nation does not respond publicly. The Grammys do not address the ritual claims. Guardianship courts do not hold press briefings. The void fills with fans, bloggers, and former allies. Social media becomes courtroom, therapy session, and battlefield all at once. Minaj's supporters call her a queen being blackballed. Wendy's supporters call her a pioneer being silenced. Critics call both unstable. The truth is not formally declared. It is debated in comment sections and live streams. The longer official channels remain quiet, the more power shifts to narrative warfare. In the end, the story refuses a single lane. It is about a marriage that sparked a feud, an album that turned into leverage, a guardianship that feels permanent, massive sums of money, reputations that can vanish overnight. Two women who built careers on confrontation now confronting systems that appear immovable. Are these rebellions against real corruption or spirals fueled by ego and isolation? Are powerful players tightening control quietly, or are these collapses unfolding from within? And if both claim they are fighting the same machine, why are they standing alone instead of together?